My name's AJ, and I'm the second positive on this issue. So to resubstantiate what my fellow advocates' main claims were, it was that the current issue is detrimental to current prostitutes out there right now. That there was no protection for the prostitutes in the way that things are working as they are, and that it can potentially create revenue. Now, the fact is that there are over 1 million prostitutes in North America right now, as reported by WISPR, the National Task Force on Prostitution. That amounts to about 1% of the population, and that is just too much to try and prosecute as it stands. There are too many women within this, and we're diverting too many resources to try and combat this issue, which shouldn't be an issue in the first place. Now, it was brought up that prostitution does have a grisly death rate. That females in prostitution have a mortality rate about 40 times higher than the national average, as reported by Deborah Boyer, PhD of University of Washington, in her research. That's true, that with a mortality like that, you would think that prostitution is bad and that we should try and steer women clear of it. However, it's obvious that with a number like 1 million prostitutes out there, women are going to continue to be out there anyways, and so that we best offer them protection instead. And thus, working in brothels can offer a safer place than working out on the streets. It's reported by Genesis, a nationwide addiction treatment program, that most of the people involved in prostitution ran away from home at an early age to escape abuse or to feel a pre-existing drug issue. So to act like these issues arise because of prostitution that they become involved with isn't fair. There's an underlying issue that needs to be addressed, and blaming prostitution on it isn't fair to the women. Now to move on to the inherency claim that there is no protection for prostitutes in our court system. As it stands, Arizona State, for one example, police often assume prostitutes don't mind the abuse that they suffer because they stick around with their pimps or whoever, further separating themselves as victims from the justice that they deserve. If we can't trust state police to be properly managing prostitution crimes as it stands right now, then how can we say that this issue does not need to be addressed? If the police aren't protecting the prostitutes in the first place, saying they must want this abuse to come to them, basically blaming the victims, then this is an issue that obviously needs to be addressed. Up to 90% of prostitutes are under control of a pimp, which is what Kristen already stated, I believe. However, when we introduce the brothel system, the idea is to separate as many prostitutes as possible away from the pimp. Now, it was established fact that many prostitutes feel some level of loyalty to these pimps. However, it's more of a Stockholm syndrome than a legitimate loyalty. The best way to combat this would be to the brothels that are open to these prostitutes. They can act as a safe haven, not dissimilar to rehabilitation centers that help these prostitutes kick their nasty lifestyles that they enter prostitution for in the first place, including drugs and whatnot. Now, Chris also brought up the number of prostitutes who will enter prostitution under the age of 18 and claim that fake IDs are relatively cheap to obtain, as to combat the issue of needing to be 18 to enter these brothels. However, if we treat this as a legitimate business and not something that people do out of the back door, then I imagine employers are going to do a little bit more than look at a fake ID and say, yes, this piece of plastic says you're 18, I need no further evidence to say you are allowed to work for us at this place of business. It will also provide a safer haven in general for prostitutes. In one study done by Brad Knickerbocker of Prostitution's Pernicious Reach Grows in the U.S., he found that every woman who has been in the Dignity House jail program said that she'd been raped, robbed, kicked, beaten, etc., etc. Now, these issues are all very significant. However, logic states that they are much less likely to occur when prostitutes are working out of a brothel. Working within a building with several other women, all who are technically on their side, it's much less likely that any one man is going to get physical or try and harm one of these prostitutes. And if they should try to, it's not very hard to install some sort of panic button in these rooms so that the other women in the house and potentially any security guards or whoever are also hired to work within these brothels can help maintain the safety of these women working. Now to move on to the third claim that it can create revenue for the state, for the federal governments. Kristen stated that brothels don't want to pay a tax, or that, Kristen stated that brothels can be deceitful when reporting how much money they make and paying taxes to try and cheat the government out of whatever money that they owe. However, evidence exists that contradicts this. Industry lobbyist George Flint, director of the Nevada Brothel Association, has actually approached legislature saying multiple times we would like to impose an entertainment tax within our own brothel industry to help raise money for Nevada, who was facing a bit of a deficit at the time. However, the state itself has reportedly multiple times declined, saying they don't want to be involved with this dirty money. Now, how can we just make the assumption that prostitution won't be able to raise any money based off of brothels being dishonest, when as it stands, state governments don't want the money in the first place? We need to legalize this process so that legislature can be written about the taxation of these brothels so that money can be raised for it. Also, found from the average annual income of an employee in the Nevada brothel found that working only 1 week per month, this prostitute had managed to make about $100K a year. With an income like this, taxation not only of the business, but of the individuals making this money, which is now a properly claimable income that they can tax, there stands to be there appears to be a large amount of money that can be raised from this. Based on this figure, each legally licensed sex worker could contribute more than $20,000 in federal income taxes a year. Yeah.